In the cold silence of the upper atmosphere, where the sky darkens into the edge of space, one aircraft dared to fly faster, higher, and more brutally than almost anything of its era. A machine so extreme it earned both glory and infamy. This is the F-104 Starfighter. Born in the tense years of the early Cold War, the Starfighter began as a direct response to a question American fighter pilots kept asking. How do we outrun the Soviet threat after the Korean War? US aviators reported facing MiG fighters that could climb and sprint with alarming capability. Lockheed's chief engineer, the legendary Kelly Johnson, listened carefully. His team at the Skunk Works envisioned a radical idea rocket with a man in it. The result was an interceptor unlike anything the world had ever seen, created for one purpose: reach incoming bombers faster than any adversary could react. The Starfighter's design philosophy was uncompromising. Its airframe was razor-thin, its profile almost alien. The most visually striking feature was its wing short, narrow, and nearly straight. With a span of barely over 21 feet, the wings were so small they seemed impossible. Yet they reduced drag to a minimum, allowing the jet to slice through the air at extraordinary speed. The fuselage was built around the engine itself, wrapped in a needle-like structure of corrosion-resistant alloys. A tiny vertical stabilizer, a high-mounted tailplane, and a pointed nose completed the aircraft's signature dart-like silhouette. Inside that nose sat advanced avionics for the 1950s, including the ASG-1 for fire control system paired with a powerful radar. Designed to enable high-speed interception, the cockpit was compact, with a downward-firing ejection seat on early models, a controversial choice meant to protect pilots during low-altitude escapes. Every aspect of the engineering leaned toward one performance metric: sheer, overwhelming velocity. At the heart of the F-104 was the General Electric J79 turbojet engine, one of the most influential power plants of its century, producing roughly 10,000 pounds of thrust dry and more than 15,000 pounds with afterburner. The J79 transformed the slender fighter into a supersonic spear. The afterburner lit like a blast furnace, propelling the aircraft beyond Mach 2. At its peak, the Starfighter could climb at more than 50,000 feet per minute and reach an altitude above 58,000 feet. In some record-setting test flights, it leapt past 90,000 feet, touching the boundary of space. It held multiple world records for speed and altitude, cementing its place in aviation history. Though built as an interceptor, the Starfighter evolved into a multi-role fighter through successive variants. It carried the M61 Vulcan, a 20mm six-barrel cannon capable of firing thousands of rounds per minute, giving pilots unparalleled close-range firepower. For air combat, it could launch AIM-9 Sidewinder missiles, making it a deadly dogfighter when used with precision and altitude advantage. Strike-capable versions added bombs, nuclear delivery options, and later electronic countermeasure pods. Underwing pylons allowed it to carry external fuel tanks or specialized ordnance, expanding its mission profiles well beyond its original role. Operational history painted a complex portrait. In U.S. service, the F-104 performed well as a high-speed interceptor and reconnaissance platform, but its tenure was relatively short as newer designs emerged. It found a second life abroad, where NATO partners such as Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Canada adopted the aircraft as a frontline fighter. In these air forces, the Starfighter flew low-level attack missions, reconnaissance patrols, and air defense operations in varied terrains and harsh weather. Its reputation, however, became a subject of global debate. While pilots admired its power and responsiveness, its unforgiving flight characteristics demanded absolute precision. The same small wings that gave it astonishing speed also limited lift, making landings fast and approaches narrow. Nations with intensive low-level strike requirements recorded accident rates that stain the aircraft's legacy. Yet many pilots insisted that, when flown with discipline and respect, the Starfighter was not a killer but a thoroughbred. Tactically, the F-104 excelled as an energy fighter. Pilots used its exceptional acceleration and climb rate to dictate the terms of engagement. Rather than turning fights, they relied on vertical maneuvering, rapid slashing attacks, and fast disengagement. Against early Soviet jets, the Starfighter's speed advantage was its greatest weapon. Even decades later, pilots described the sensation of lighting the J-79 afterburner as being pushed by a giant hand, launching the aircraft forward with unmatched urgency when compared with rivals of its era. The Starfighter stands as a study in extremes. The Soviet MiG-21, for instance, offered better agility and was easier to operate, but it could not match the F-104's raw altitude and acceleration. The later F-4 Phantom II surpassed the Starfighter in payload and versatility. Yet even the Phantom could not duplicate the F-104's needle-like aerodynamic purity. The Starfighter lived in a category of its own, neither a classic dogfighter, nor a modern multi-role powerhouse, but a specialist designed for speed above all else. Despite its age, the aircraft's legacy continues. Italy flew upgraded Starfighters into the early 2000s, employing modern avionics, digital navigation, new radar sets, and improved safety systems. Some nations still display operational Starfighters for training and heritage flights, preserving the roar of the J-79 for future generations. Museums around the world hold the jet as a symbol of an era when aviation pushed relentlessly toward the edge of possibility. In the end, the F-104 Starfighter remains a paradox, elegant yet dangerous, revolutionary yet demanding. It embodies the ambitions and anxieties of the early Cold War time, when speed meant survival, and aerospace engineers dared to challenge the limits of physics itself. For some, it is remembered as a machine that tested pilots harder than it rewarded them. For others, it is remembered as a masterpiece of engineering, a titanium-clad arrow that touched the sky. But to anyone who has heard its engine ignite or watched it climb like a bolt of lightning into the stratosphere, the F-104 represents something deeper: the human desire to go faster, reach higher, and push beyond the horizon, no matter the cost.